So between this video and the last one, I went ahead and blushed one of the hands, and it was during that process that I realized maybe you guys would like to see how I do that too. So you can see by the side-by-side comparison here how different the blushed limb looks from the one that hasn't been blushed yet. So that's very exciting, so let's check out how to create that effect. So as I was saying in the last video, when you clench, there are white spots that are created as the blood's being forced out of the skin. So this is a fist, so we want to capture that as well in our blushing. So I still have the same blushing color that I've been working with. I actually created a smaller well here. It's the same stuff. I didn't do anything different to it, but by it being in a thinner layer, it dries a little faster, and that helps me because it makes my color more concentrated. So I'm gonna take this and get the brighter areas on the fist. So the blood's being squeezed out here and forced downward. I'm gonna use my sponge just to pounce that out a little bit, make it a little softer, so that now my dry brush can blend the edges of this out. Okay, and maybe you want to go back and add a little bit more. Fortunately, this is a color that you can build while it's still wet, but we still have to cure it before we can get those sweet spots, because as long as the paint under it isn't cured, it will remain movable. Okay, so now I want to get this area where we're forcing the paint out of this crease under the thumb. So the clenched part is going to be white, and we're forcing it out into the not clenched part. And again, I'm gonna blend that too. A nice, even finish. Ooh, that is so cute. I'm loving this. Oh, just look at that. It's just kissable. Oh. All right. Now I'm gonna get progressively weirder as we get closer to finishing this doll. That's how you know it worked, right? You start to treat it like it's a baby, then you know you've successfully created something that looks like a baby, even to you. And do the same thing on the other side here. And you can use the sponge to blend it out a little bit too. But I like to use my dry brush to feather it out around this, feather it out around those creases. I don't actually look through the camera when I'm painting, so I apologize when I drift out. Let me see. If I pull it this way a little bit, I have a tendency to want to paint closer to me. All right, let's get the knuckle here. So we've already got a spot that's heading in this direction. So we can go ahead and make that a nice continuous blushed area. Let's blend it right into that part where we're clenching. Great. I want to drag it up between these knuckles. All right, loving it, loving it. It's good to keep the wrist if you want to. It's nice to keep the wrist and the knuckles a little on the pale side because we are doing that clenching motion, and that is forcing blood out of those areas. Okay, now I want to get into these creases. So again, you're going to see why I like to alternate between the blushing and the creasing, because they're actually somewhat similar processes depending on how you do it. So what I'm wanting to do right now is drop a little bit of my blushing color into those creases. And actually right here on the nail bed too. And I'm going to take my dry brush and blend it out of the creases. And why do you do that? So this creates a nice look on the knuckles. It highlights the creases more, and it just adds dimension to these areas in your blushing, and you can go over that as many times as you like and get them as red as you like, or leave them as pale as you like. We're doing art, not manufacturing, so you have a lot of freedom to tune this to your taste. Doesn't it look awesome? I just love that. Gonna add a little bit more on this knuckle because it's just too cute to stop. And there's actually tiny little creases here too that I want to gently shade around. I'm blending it away from the top of the finger and into the side of the finger. Alright, if you're feeling like you don't like the transition between the knuckle and the part you didn't blush, you can always take your sponge and blend it out a little more. So that way it's more of a gradual transition as opposed to here's where it's red and here's where it stops. So that's a very nice effect to have. It's also good to blush the fingertips, and you can blush clean over the nails too, because we're going to go back and paint those red anyway. Or we're going to blush them, we're not going to paint them red. It's not nail polish, but we are going to highlight it. So don't worry too much about missing the nails because that's going to look just fine when you come back later. So you can get the fingertips. I'm actually going to take my my liner brush, and get that thumb because it's under pressure. So if you can see my thumb, how there's like, you know, there's a color pattern there. So we're going to try to replicate that with the liner. Might as well do that now since I just talked about it. So on my thumb, it was darkest at the fat part, just like that. I can't fit my brush in my sponge in that spot, so I'm going to use my brush. I'm going to blend it all the way to where the thumb meets the other fingers, and paint it down into this crease too. Okay, notice I didn't paint this part, only the bottom, so you get that clenching effect. It's also good to blush the elbows. This is one of the easier things to blush because you just glob the paint on and use your sponge to spread it around. And this is what I was referencing earlier, that because we put the flesh color in the paint, it blends so seamlessly. It's just very natural looking and very pretty. Build a little bit more color here. It's not quite the sweet spot, but we are moving in that direction. Each time I add more and more color. So that's beautiful. We've got sort of a fold or fat roll thing going on here. So like I was showing you on the ankle, you want the majority of the color to be where the skin's a little bit looser. And then you'll blend that into the area where the skin is light. This is a nice big area, so I can use my sponge. I'm gonna drag that all the way out to the color that I added on the elbow because I don't really want to see any white spots unless they make sense. Okay, this is actually, I have enough room to use my sponge over here too. Okay, so we're gonna blend that out. Looks very nice. And then I'm gonna use my sponge just to dab this a little bit and blend it back into the rest of that area. And add a little bit more paint with the liner to get us to the top of that fold. This is a small area, so I can't fit my sponge in here. I mean, I just think that looks so neat. You know, I'm really, when I first saw the Realborn kits and I saw all these creases and rolls and details, I thought, wow, that's gonna be challenging to paint, but it gives you so much more to work with, so much more depth of dimension and color, and it's really fantastic. I want one of these. This one is a custom order, but one sweet day I'm gonna make one for my personal collection because these are just really gorgeous sculpts. I also like to add blush right where the cloth body stops. because I like to pretend that the cloth body is like a little t-shirt that the doll is wearing. And if she were wearing a tight t-shirt, that would be forcing blood out from under that cloth body too. So, a matter of preference, you can do it how you like to do it. I like to come down a little bit on the back of the arm. So I'm going to blend it sideways, and then I'm going to blend it up. So, kind of making a triangle shape here. And using my sponge to spread that around. So as you can see, like now that we've been blushing back here on the arm, there's really very little space that hasn't been blushed. So we're really continuing to color in the doll as we're doing that, but with certain emphasis on specific areas. So I'm gonna finish that up. I just realized I've already been talking for too long again. So thank you again for tuning in. If you found this helpful at all, I'd really appreciate it if you liked the video. That just makes me feel great. So yeah, thank you again for tuning in, and I will see you next time.